You're all set.
Okay, thank you. All right, Bill, Shirley, and I see Pat and Erie here. It's, I guess, around 2 o'clock. I don't know if you saw the email that Paul said he was going to be late, and Nicole can't make it. She had something come up at work. But we can still obviously do things. I did not hear from Azu or Jennifer. I assume that neither one of them will be on since they haven't been part of it.
And you said Nicole will be coming late?
Yes, he said he'd be coming late.
Okay.
Something came up at work, but he would come on late though.
What about Nicole?
She is not going to be on. Something came up at work and she said that at the last minute, and she said she simply couldn't do it.
Okay.
So it's us. So whether
The three of us.
the three of us so far, we should get Paul eventually. And I think we can get some things done. And my hope is that if we can get some basic stuff out of the way, that maybe the next meeting we can sort of finalize everything. And then send it to Michael and let him play with it. And we can then start harassing him to get it done. Bill, did you get the email that I sent today on the changes?
I did.
Okay. And you get at Shirley's also?
I did.
Okay. Can we just go over, just try to finalize some things, some basic stuff? For instance, the makeup of the board. Is there any issue? What I put down there in that second paragraph is basically, well, I think what we cited before. Is there any problem with any of that? We have the tree warden, member of the highway department, member of the planning board, an arborist, member of the Bridgewater Improvement Association, a member of the open space committee, and a member from the general public. Any issues with that?
Yes, I would like to say, we might not be as hard-nosed on the arborist.
Right.
I think that, in fact, maybe it was you, Bill, who talked about the possibility of somebody who works in the field with trees and has an awful lot of knowledge about them, but may not have the licensing for an arborist.
True, true.
Is that
How would you-
possible to suggest that we might accept that?
How would we word that?
Well, an arborist, I think it's already done the way it's written because we didn't specify a certified arborist. Therefore, anybody that is in the business of cutting trees can call himself an arborist.
Oh, fine.
Okay, that's good. So we're not narrowing ourselves down by simply using the word arborist, Bill.
No.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, I just would say that in the third suggestion there, work to spend any mitigation money.
Well, wait a minute, let's just clarify. Are we
Okay,
on the makeup of the board, first of all?
Okay, okay. I'm good with it.
One other thing, did we talk about a person from the Conservation Committee?
That did enter my mind. I don't remember.
Neither do I.
Is the Conservation Committee at all involved with trees?
My understanding is, if I remember somebody saying, I don't remember it clearly, that there isn't even a conservation committee right now. Nobody is volunteered for it. But in theory, we what do you think? As I said before, I'm just a little concerned about a huge board, that's all. You think conservation is essential?
I don't know how involved they would be with trees.
I don't know. If we add conservation, we have, well, to me, first of all, obviously the no-brainer is tree warden, highway, arborist, BIA, and I think general public. Open space and planning board are good. I'm not, I don't think they're necessities though.
Well, I think planning board is a necessity.
Well, yes,
I think of the developments that are coming online where they've done tree clearing and the proposed development down there in Kearney at the lake, where he's talking about a huge tree clearing.
yeah, I know.
I think they're the first line of defense when it comes to contractors.
But the thing is, Shirley, when the planning board has a development proposed, we send out the plans to various other boards to comment on them. And it goes to police, fire, conservation, highway, everybody to make comments on it. It could be done that way. In other words, the plans could be sent to the tree board for comment.
But you have an awful lot of stuff already written down about trees in developments
Right.
and in new roads that are going in and so on. So somebody spent a lot of time studying that on the planning board and getting it together and putting it out there. We have copies of it.
So what are you saying? Planning board should
And I think
be,
there should be somebody from the planning board on this tree board.
I'm ambivalent to it. Well, I think, as I said before, I think even if there is nobody on, then it still would be dealt with by sending the plans to the tree board. At the same time, I told you before, now a year or so ago, maybe 2 years, the planning board did vote that I would be the representative to the tree board.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I'm not sure how the way it's set up in town, but the planning board used to have representatives on various boards. Did that mean they're official voting members, or are they simply there to, add their input? I don't know. Why don't we leave it then? What about conservation?
I think the same thing applies.
Okay,
I think that if either board will notify the tree board of anything in connection with trees, that would give us the opportunity to work.
My only concern is that's sort of a nebulous thing. If they would, they will. Sometimes it goes by the boards and we don't know anything about it until it's clear cutted.
Sure.
So if you have a member who's a voting member and represents that conservation or whatever it is going to be, there's a better chance that you're going to have more accurate and up-to-date communication. Just my 2 cents.
all right, I mean, Bill, I guess, as I said before, I think it can work both ways. Again, my concern is simply an 8-member board is fairly large, but I'll go along.
I know you say that, Ray, but as I'm looking at some of the responsibilities here that the tree board is going to take into, well, be in charge of, I can see at least 7 members of that tree board having 7 different responsibilities. There's one who will be just in charge of educational programs. There's another one who will be just in charge of street trees. And then another who will be in charge of clear cutting of public ways or town properties, et cetera, et cetera. So if you divide up the duties amongst those, you'll find that those 7 people are going to all have something responsible for. I'm just looking about what the job of the board will be once they get functioning. And I think from my point of view, I would see it as each member has a responsibility that they take on. I see at least 7 responsibilities there.
Maybe, I mean, it depends on how the board wants to deal with it.
Sure.
Maybe we're thinking 2 different levels, Shirley. I'm thinking that if this board, we haven't decided when this board, how often the board will meet. Let's say it meets once a month. You're asking somebody from the planning board or from, I don't know, whatever, open space. The planning board, for instance, meets twice a month. You're asking that person to meet 3 times a month on various committees. And I just think there should be a core group on the tree board, which the core would be tree warden, highway, arborist, BIA. and all the others are important, but not necessarily the, anyway, but why don't, let's try to come up with a tentative decision, and when we vote finally for this, either the next meeting or the one after, we can finalize it when we have more people.
Maybe what we could do in the meantime, Ray, is look up what other tree boards in other towns make up their membership of and what the size of it is. Those are
Yeah.
towns that are working with a tree board. They may have some experience.
I have looked, they're all over the place. Some are 4 members, some are 8 or 9 members. It depends on what they want to do. But let's leave it and then finalize when we have a larger group. We can vote on it.
Okay.
All right. Then I go on, we'll meet with town board and so on. Question 1, last time, Bill, we had a question about how we're going to word that. Is that okay now? Develop a tree inventory process, and that process should come out. Develop a tree inventory process and implement the process.
I think that's fine, the way you've written it. There are many different approaches to tree inventories.
Right, the issue came up because I think Shirley or somebody brought up the fact that the town isn't capable of doing a tree inventory on their own. They have to hire somebody to come in and do it, this wording would allow us to do that.
Well, it can be done in-house as long as the person is trained and is paid. We can hire a company to come in and inventory our trees, but a lot of towns do it in-house.
Okay.
There's software that we can purchase that goes along with tree inventory, and
Okay.
be kind of fun.
So is the wording okay with you right now?
I was consider adding develop and maintain a tree inventory.
Yeah, that would fit right in there.
Where would you put it, Shirley?
Develop and maintain, add
Okay.
and maintain.
Okay. Okay, good. Number 2, encourage a long-term health.
Put a period after inventory. I don't think we need process and implementation of the process.
Yep, gotcha. I knew there's 2 processes there. Okay. Number 2, encourage the long-term health of Bridgewater public trees, promoting the planting of environmentally appropriate tree species. I think we're okay on that.
That looks good.
Okay. Number 3, work to spend any mitigation funds that are set aside for the planting and care of trees. Expenditure of funds can include the purchase of equipment for the maintenance of trees. Shirley brought that up because I guess Paul said that he had somebody that could come in as a tree person, but he wouldn't come unless we had a bucket truck. So the idea here is that mitigation money could be spent more on simply planting trees. It could go towards highway to get equipment.
I think that's very important. I think, though, that instead of work to spend any mitigation funds, we should simply manage the mitigation funds.
Okay. Just how would you word it? Manage any mitigation funds? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Shirley, okay?
I would name.
Is the rest of it okay, Bill?
Yep. Obviously, we'll have to lobby for a bucket truck, but that comes later.
Well, let me tell you, first of all, we have to lobby to get this damn board in.
Right.
Then we can start worrying about. All right, number 4, work with town officials and boards in manners that relate to the care, management, removal of necessary public trees in town. That needs to be reworded. I guess the removal necessary is part of removal. In other words, necessary trees.
I wonder if we could put in there removal of hazardous trees.
All right. That's better. I like that. So we're saying work with town officials and boards in matters that relate to the care, management, and removal of hazardous public trees in town.
Mhm.
That's good.
Okay. 5, work with town officials to acquire grants to support the preservation and maintenance of public trees in town. And in parentheses, including the purchasing of equipment. That's sort of repetitive, but
I was thinking that maybe we could say acquired grants to support the purchase and preservation, or the purchase and maintenance of public trees. We were looking for grant money to purchase and maintain public trees. Is that what you had in mind with that statement?
so what you're saying, wait, work with town officials to acquire grants to support the preservation and purchase and maintenance of public trees. Is that what you're saying?
I was saying, instead of the word preservation, just put
Oh.
purchase rather, purchase and maintenance of public trees. If we maintain them, we should
Okay.
be conserving them.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. So work with town officials to acquire grants to purchase
And maintain the
and
main,
maintain public trees in
Period.
town. Okay. Okay, that's fine. 6, design educational programs for the public dealing with the procurement and maintenance of trees on private property.
I was going to suggest going back to a comment that I made earlier about education, and that was design and promote an educational component to include, but not to limit to, and then I listed 3 things: knowledge and awareness of the ecological benefits of trees, their planting and care on private and public property. 2, seek and administer grants. 3, promote planting of native tree species. It's a little more developed there.
Well, the first part is educational. Is the last part educational?
I think so. I think that when we're looking at developing grants, you've got to kind of know what you're doing to write up a grant. And promoting and planting of native tree species would also require teaching people, if you will, that Bartlett pears are not the kind of tree you want in your front yard, even though it's pretty in the spring.
But aren't we, I understand what you're saying, but this is dealing with the private property. We're not trying to help them get grants on private property, are we?
I don't think we care where the property is. We're looking for developing as many trees as we possibly can in town. And I think that if they have a big front yard, putting a tree on it is important, and maybe we want to encourage them through education to know the kinds of trees they can put on there that would be appropriate, such as non-invasive trees.
Well, that's part of the educational programs.
What was that?
That's sort of included when we say educational, isn't it?
I don't know if that's necessarily included.
Well, read your statement again.
My idea was to develop the educational aspect of that to the point of saying 3 things: the knowledge and awareness of the ecological benefits. I think there are very few people who really know what that means.
Okay, that's good.
I think seeking and administering grants, again, I think that's something that takes a little bit of expertise, and we want to encourage people to know what it is that we're looking for in these grants and what kinds of trees would be beneficial. So we're educating them in that regard. And then promoting and planting native tree species. So again, we don't get palm trees on the front yard of Barrett's liquor store or restaurant before it was Barrett's.
Shirley, I think that's a good idea with those three things.
Is that too definitive?
I'm fine with it, other than the word grants, that's all. But if you want to go with it, I have no problem. I just think grants are sort of out of,
I,
grants are more what
okay.
the town doing. That's what I'm saying. But Shirley, why don't you do this? Why don't you write it up and mail it to everybody? And then we could either change it, agree to it, or whatever by the next meeting, okay?
Great.
Okay.
All right. Okay, work to promote Arbor Day and to establish Bridgewater as a tree city.
Yeah, I think,
Okay.
good.
Consider the creation of a tree farm. Bill, for your information, the last meeting, we put in the word consider, because if we simply said, start a tree farm, that might mull things up in terms of getting this approved. In other words, we're not saying definitively that we want a tree farm, that we at least want to consider doing a tree farm.
Mhm. I think that's good.
Okay,
You okay with that?
yeah, I'm okay with that.
I say that because Carlton had come up with 3 spots already in town for a tree farm. I thought that was putting the cart before the horse, in the sense that, okay,
What if we
I-
should consider and promote the creation of a tree farm?
okay,
Mhm.
consider and promote, okay. Advise the various boards, number 9, that presently have regulations regarding trees. I think that's important.
I
For
agree.
instance, the planning board requires trees on subdivisions. It'd be good to have a tree board say what kind of trees should we put in. We do, as I said, I think to Shirley, Bill, I don't know if you're aware, the planning board does require that in many of these developments, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot Paul. Paul's,
Say it again, Ray.
Paul, I left him out. I was trying to get in. Bill, the planning board in developments now require that a certified arborist okays the plantings. Paul, I apologize if I didn't let you in early enough. You're muted, Paul. You're muted.
Paul, you've got you're muted.
How about now?
All right, there you are.
I thought there might have been a problem, so I went out and came back again. Now it's working.
No, I'm host, therefore I'm slow. I'm not used to having this power of my controls. I just don't. You don't want me the pilot of an airplane. We just went through. Did you get the email that I sent you?
I did, yeah.
Okay, we just went through those again and made some minor changes
Okay,
that we will change and send out to you again, with the intent of maybe coming up with a final draft at the next meeting. We didn't, the last line that we haven't talked about. Oh, I'm sorry, the number 9, are we okay on that? Advise the various boards that presently have regulations regarding trees.
Yes.
I think that's fine the way it is.
Okay.
Now, one other thing before we leave this list. Today, while I had nothing else to do, I went through some of the other towns with things that they had put down in tree policies or ordinances. And I pulled out some others that we might want to consider. Some of them might be too detailed and would be appropriate for the tree board itself to look at and to decide how they want to incorporate it or not. The others might be broad enough to include with your list of 9 here. Do you want me to read them now, or how would you like to do that?
Maybe you could just give us, instead of reading them, like what the intent is of each one, and then read it.
They go the whole year. They go the whole gamut.
Well, based on what you're looking at, anyone's important, you think?
Well, for instance, I have a statement about permitting and who does or who gives the permission to remove a hazardous tree, for instance. And I think that should be identified by the tree board, whether it's identified at this stage or whether it's done later on by them. That was one example. I have others. If you want to take the time to do that, I can give you the rest, or I can send them to you in an email. What's your time schedule? We're 25 after the hour. Have we got an hour to do this on?
I'm okay, I'm okay. Why don't you, are they lengthy reading or just?
No, they're not.
Okay.
They're one line, one or two
Go
lines.
ahead. Permits is one. Go ahead.
The other is develop a schematic for planting of trees near streets, curbs, and sidewalks. That's going to take a certain species of trees because of the location, because of its effect by road salt, because of the lines up above, the utility lines, etc., traffic, and so on. So I was just thinking we might need to develop some kind of list of trees that would be appropriate for those locations.
Okay, keep going.
Permit issued by the tree warden is required for topping trees, pruning or removal of non-public trees that may affect the public safety. Stump removal. Those are three things that I think we need to have permits.
Wait a
to
minute.
develop.
On that, why don't we get, since we're on, Paul, maybe you could clarify for us. What's the process right now?
For which part of it? For stump removal?
Or now,
Or a permit by the tree warden to top a tree. Does that happen now?
No.
You just do it.
The only thing that happens now is, so we're so small and short staffed, we're basically just reactive, not proactive.
Okay,
Right.
And basically somebody will call with a complaint or a concern about a tree that's dying or dead. We go look at it, we take a rough measurement. If we feel it's ours, we take it down.
okay.
That's
I'm-
the end all be all.
I think that one of the things I'm concerned about is the utility companies aren't always very sensitive to how they prune. And topping a tree is not unusual to see along the main thoroughfare, particularly under utility lines.
Well,
Agreed.
Cheryl, the utility company, at least National Grid and Eversource, now employ full-time arborists.
Right,
And any work that's done in our town has to be approved by the tree warden. So they call me and I ride with them and look at what they're gonna do.
okay,
And their pruning techniques are far advanced from what they used to be.
Right.
They used to butcher a lot of trees, but they're getting better and better.
so we could just eliminate that one. We don't need to have that one.
I think so.
That's great. And I have develop a tree valuation for replacement or mitigation of public trees removed by private individuals, corporations, utility companies, contractors. So we put a value on each tree or on a certain cluster of trees that the developer or the utility company or the private individual would have to pay if they have that tree approved by the tree warden and removed. There's a
That-
cost.
Even private trees, even like a tree in your own personal backyard, you think somebody's gonna
No.
pay?
Only if it affects the public, whatever. For instance, if you have a beautiful beech tree and somebody said, I'm tired of raking leaves, I want that beech tree out, and it's right there in the front yard. I think we ought to say, well, if you do, it's going to cost you. And
I
we
don't think that will ever fly.
I agree. I think
I agree as well.
that, I don't think we
I-
can touch
I-
private property.
I see where you're coming from, and it's sincere. I just don't think that'll fly.
Well, could it apply if we didn't include private property?
Yeah, I think geared more towards contractors, people that are clearing land for a new home or, to
Right.
buy a lot of land and you're gonna clear it and build a house to sell. Well, that's a different story, I think.
Okay,
But if you're establishing your home, I don't think we can dictate to somebody what you can do on your own property.
okay.
My opinion. Might not be the law, but
Evaluation for replacement or mitigation of public trees removed by private, well, instead of private individuals, we would put corporations, utilities, and contractors. Actually, if it says public trees,
I think we already have that, Shirley.
we do have an evaluation of trees according to the diameter of the tree.
No,
That's what I'm talking about. I'm
Yeah.
talking about the Carney property down at Lakeside area who wants to remove 1,500 trees. We now tell him that each tree that is over a diameter of 8 inches is going to cost him X amount of dollars.
I'll tell you,
That's our
Shirley,
mitigation.
I'm a little concerned of that because when the solar farm was proposed on 18, Carlton came up with a formula for determining the value of the trees. The formula, the result that came out was less than what they agreed upon. In other words, if we went simply by the formula,
Mhm.
we would have agreed on considerably less money than what we finally will be getting. So I don't know. I'm just nervous about.
Well, I think it would take a little bit of study in terms of developing the value of these trees. Carlton, I don't know where he pulled that from. Some towns already have done that, and they've already established a value for certain diameters of trees, and they group them together. So if a tree has a 6 to 10 inch diameter, it is worth this much.
I don't have a problem with that as long as we can put it in general terms.
It's much more complicated than just the diameter. The accepted formulas for evaluating trees includes where the tree is planted. For example, a 20-inch maple specimen tree, perfect tree on your front yard is worth a heck of a lot more than the same maple tree in the forest.
Mhm.
And when you get into forested trees, then you get into board footage. It can get very complex.
Mhm.
I think that if we want to put something into develop an accepted valuation process, perhaps we could at this point, and then talk about all these details later.
And that's what I'm thinking is that we have some way of assessing the value of a tree so that a developer who comes in and wants to clear cut an area knows approximately or within a program what it's going to cost him to replace those trees.
Mhm, mhm.
And that's not uncommon with towns that have tree ordinances.
Right, right, right.
And
so
that's
we're
not
already kind of doing that.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry for cutting you off. I said, we're already kind of doing that with the mitigation funds. You just want to have a way to put a value to it that's equal to everyone. We can't just say, all right, your job's 10,000, your job's 20,000. There's got to be a formula that creates the value.
Well, I think a formula is what's missing right now. Right now, it's sort of a decision that's made by whomever, the tree warden or Carlton who came up with an idea, whatever. It needs to be more formal than that so that every developer knows that he's being measured against the next developer and the next development and so on, and not just the whim of somebody who says, oh, well, you're going to do 1,000, give us 5,000 or whatever it might be.
Perhaps,
I suppose, I'm sorry, go ahead.
perhaps in Ray's outline, just a simple line of develop a process for evaluation of trees, both forested trees and on public trees on the public way. Just leave it at that.
Yeah.
That would give us the room we need later on.
Good point.
Okay, do you want that as a separate line?
I think so.
Okay. Say that again, Bill.
Develop a process for the valuation of trees, both forested and on the public way, in the public way.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I like that because it gives the board some
Room.
leeway in how they're gonna
Yeah.
do it. Good, okay.
I mean, ultimately, we're trying to limit the number of trees that are going to be removed
Right,
uh, in the forest for development. And the
Right.
only way to do that is to make these fellows pay money.
to make them realize the value of the trees that they're just clear cutting.
Right, right.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I'll just repeat though that the prime example was when they came with the solar farm on 18. And they're gonna cut 10 acres of trees. And I said, how about $200,000? And that went nowhere. And then after we went further into the process, we came back and what about the trees again? And Carlton came up with the formula and I think it was like 35,000. And I said, how about 76? And they simply said, okay. It's like
No,
that.
I just want to make it more uniform.
I
So
understand.
every
I understand.
developer knows what the town is using for its yardstick, and we're not just bargaining on the side
Yeah,
between developers.
Yeah. Okay, all right. I'm fine with that. Go ahead, Shirley.
Okay, develop a process, no, last one. Establish and adopt or dedicate a tree program to be administered by the tree board. Establish and adopt or dedicate a tree program. In other words, somebody wants to give a tree in memory of somebody. If they do that, there's a certain price that they pay for the tree, and they can then put on a plaque, or we can put on a plaque or whatever. It says in memory of, da, 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 da. So it's another way of increasing the mitigation fund.
It's fine. Why don't you write that up, Shirley, and add that to your list and send it to us.
That's it.
Let's go back to the permits you mentioned the first time. What were you saying?
I'm saying establish and, in quotes, adopt or dedicate a tree program to be administered by the tree board.
No, I'm sorry. That's fine. I was saying the first point you made, we didn't talk about, about permits, the first thing you mentioned.
Require a permit for the tree warden, from the tree warden for a removal of hazardous trees. Nobody can take down a hazardous tree unless the tree warden permits it, sends an official notice, signs an official notice.
I believe that's already in effect.
It might be.
But,
Yeah.
but as Paul said, I mean, you gotta have somebody to do it, somebody to enforce it. I did a few permits years ago, and they haven't done one now for 10 years.
Mhm.
All right. Okay. What are we missing? Anything?
That's it.
Well, as far as the list goes, are we gonna go to the last paragraph? Which I love.
Oh, okay. We didn't do that yet, right? Yeah, I threw in members of the board strongly encourages the town to create a forestry department under the control of the highway department. We would also encourage that the funds be set aside for the proper equipment to maintain trees. We strongly encourage that the position of a paid tree warden be established. That is in terms of how it's not part of the tree board per se, but I think we should at least add that to it. And if necessary, make a presentation to the council for that. I think it's critical. The tree board's got to be linked to highway. I mean, I think that we can get money for mitigation, but ideally the town should spend more money for forestry department.
Of course, of course.
Yeah, there's no argument there. I mean, it's just unrealistic, I think, a town, any town, never mind a town of our size, to have nobody out there maintain. I mean, you wouldn't have so many dead trees if they actually maintain the living trees,
That's right.
but there's no maintenance going on. It's literally when a tree falls, we cut it up. That's about it. If we get a stretch of, not great weather for our work, they might go out and do a little trimming around, areas like a cul-de-sac that's kind of tight to start getting around, but they don't really know what they're doing. They're just cutting.
I think, Paul, my hope with this would be that we hope the agreement of the tree board, that we'd be able to apply enough pressure that the town would take this more seriously in terms of budgeting for a forestry department, which
Exactly.
means the equipment that goes with it as well as a person, or more than one. I wouldn't have any problem. I'm sure you could easily handle 2 people in a forestry department.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And
Well, that's exactly the point, Shirley. I mean, I think our points that we have are separate from our lobbying. But the fact that we're coming up with the tree board gives us some status, or whatever you want to say, to also lobby.
Sure.
And I think just on the spur of the moment, maybe we should make a presentation to the council.
Sure. I
Maybe
agree.
Paul may either come along or add your thoughts, at some point,
And having it in this document, which we can take to Michael and get him to endorse, gives all the more power to that.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know where it kind of went away because, so we had Victor, as you all know. And after his passing, the money didn't go away. They didn't take the funds away from us. They just transferred the funds into, they took his salary money and they added money to the funds that were allowed to spend on outside vendors for tree removal or tree trimming, with the hopes that we would get somebody again. But part of the problem is you can't just have one person, we all know, merely just for safety. And they'd have to make some type of investment into a little more equipment. They have a good chip truck, they have a good chipper, they have the ground equipment, but they really need to buy a bucket truck, which isn't a huge investment in the grand scheme of things.
How much is bucket truck?
I mean, for less than $150,000, I think they can be in a bucket to do what we need to do. Would you agree, Bill, or 200?
absolutely, no, I think 150 or less.
Yeah,
A new bucket truck, not a 75 footer or anything.
no, just to do, I mean, they could still have a crane come in for the major work, but
Yeah,
just
yeah.
maintenance.
What can you use a bucket truck besides for trees?
I'm sure you could find uses for it all over the place.
Oh, geez, don't go there, Ray.
Yeah,
You get into painting, paint the flagpole at the high school, and pretty soon the truck is covered in white paint.
Yeah, this is,
It should be dedicated to its use.
I was
It's-
just thinking maybe easier to get money for it if it's going to be used for other things, but that's all right.
well, maybe we can use part of the mitigation money to help support it. That might be a selling point as well.
Sure.
I mean, if we could contribute $50,000 toward a bucket truck, maybe that's enough for them to bite the other 100,000.
Just
I mean,
remember that mitigation money will not come in other than in large projects.
Mhm.
And the only one possible right now is Perkins and the NIP are the two that are potential.
Mhm.
I'm not sure where Perkins is now, but I'm not sure if they're still interested or not, but it could be money there and there could be money from the NIP. But other than that, if there's no major project, we're not getting mitigation. You're not going to get a mitigation from a 6-lot subdivision. Just isn't going to happen.
Well, yeah.
All right.
Mhm.
All right, then Shirley, can you send everybody what you have with the revisions that you brought in?
Sure.
And I'll add it to what we just talked about today. Maybe we can finalize this at the next meeting. What's a good time for you guys?
Mhm.
Is this time of the day good, bad, or what?
Good
it
for
generally
me.
works for me. I just had something come up today, but
Bill, what about you?
I'm fine with, 2 o'clock on Wednesdays is
I
good.
Spencer.
You want to do next week or do you want to do the following week?
What about the 27th?
27th. Fine with me. So it's fine with me. Let me see about Shirley and Paul.
Yeah, yeah.
Twenty-seventh is good with me.
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock is good.
Oh, what's the 27th for you? 2 o'clock.
Let's see, 27th. Yep, I have one with Michael at noon, but that's it. So,
He's not important. You can do us.
believe it or not, it has to do with snow plowing.
Well, when you meet him at noon, make a side comment that you're also going to meet with the tree board at 2 o'clock, and we're very excited that he better look at it right away and then get it going to the council. Because sometimes
Okay.
he simply, I send him stuff from the last meeting and he didn't respond, which is not abnormal. It's not, that's his way of doing things sometimes. But. All right, that's great. I think we made some progress. Surely going to send out some changes. I'll put it all together and we'll get it to Nicole and maybe we can wrap this up at the next meeting. Okay.
And then
Sounds good to
we
me.
can try to meet with or present it to Michael. I really think rather than sending it to him in an email, we should walk it into his office.
I agree. That's a good idea. I didn't think of that.
I'm
I
good
will
with
ask them. That's great. It's a good idea.
Okay.
Maybe we
Good.
could walk in with like 75 people.
I'll get hard hats for everybody.
This is just the process of government. It does, just because you're right doesn't mean you're going to get what you want. You just gotta keep
Sure.
pushing and
The
maneuvering.
bigger the army, the better the defeat.
Pardon me?
That's
The
right.
bigger the army, the better the defeat.
Yeah. We'll get it in. It may be, it may take a little longer than we hoped for, but we'll get it in. Okay. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Hey,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your hard work, Ray, Shirley.
That's, we gotta get this in. Can't
Is
let it.
Jennifer going to type up these notes? She's
Well,
gonna-
Josh said he was doing it, but he's not doing it. I'll put something out I'll put something out.
I really, really would like to encourage the administration for providing the note taker for these meetings. We're spending enough time trying to get information to be doing the secretarial work that can be done by professional staff, I think is the least that we can ask.
I'll email Josh right now. He's not in today and say what has been done in the past and we want those notes. Okay.
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 As long as they've recorded it, they have all the information.
Right. Good. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Take it easy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.